calling Covington Catholic high school students racist, claiming Joe Biden banned hamburgers. These are just some of the stories and other stories biased news media screwed up. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. This episode is sponsored by Surfshark. You should be using a VPN like Surfshark to protect yourself whenever you go online. So I recently covered a story about how media companies seem to be slowly dying, specifically news media. Specifically because people are tired of non-stop doom and gloom, divisive, partisan news coverage. It's no secret news companies are heavily biased. MSNBC pushes left-leaning narratives, Fox News pushes right-leaning narratives, and the Weekly World News pushes bat-boy-leaning narratives. And I'm actually starting to trust them more than the other companies. Of course the U.S. is planning to create an army of bat-boy clones. That's how the military is going to solve their recruitment issues. What was I talking about? Oh yeah. All this overtly biased news coverage has led to an erosion of trust in the media. More and more Americans are concerned about journalists pushing agendas, and many even blame the partisan coverage for the growing divide in the country. The issue is that when reporters are biased, they have a tendency to screw up stories. Heck, we pointed out how left-leaning media botched the Hunter Biden laptop story. Twice! They even refused to cover it. Although considering how traumatized Matt still is over having to watch those leaked Hunter Biden videos, I don't fully blame them. Thanks for your sacrifice, Matt. Today I'm going to cover 4 stories that news media screwed up because of bias. Starting with number 4. I'm sure many of you remember seeing this footage of an encounter between a MAGA hat-wearing teen and a Native American elder. It went viral in January 2019. The teen was Nicholas Sandman, a student from Covington Catholic High School, who was on a school field trip to Washington, D.C. for the March for Life rally. And the Native American elder was Nathan Phillips, who was there for the Indigenous Peoples March. Based on that short clip, several news sources claimed that Sandman and his friends were mocking Phillips, leading to outrage and threats against the students. This conclusion was drawn mostly from the fact that Sandman was smiling silently at Phillips, which, to be fair, is enraging. Nothing pisses me off more than seeing a teenager smile. Stop flaunting all your youthful hopes and dreams at me, you little punk. Phillips said he approached the MAGA teens to defuse a confrontation they had with 4 nearby black people. He claimed the teens were in the process of attacking these 4 black individuals. These young men were beastly, and these old black individuals was their prey. And I stood in between them, and so they needed their pounds of flesh. And they were looking at me for that. Wow, how heroic of Phillips. And the news agreed with him for the next several days, as he was interviewed by many outlets. Too bad additional footage showed it wasn't true.
But a different video surfaced Sunday that showed what happened before the encounter.
You little dirty crackers, your day coming.
In a statement, Salmon says he never interacted with Phillips. To be honest, I was startled and confused as to why he had approached me. We'd already been yelled at by another group of protesters, and when the second group approached, I was worried that a situation was getting out of control.
Turns out the MAGA teens were verbally accosted by Black Hebrew Israelites, a group labeled by the Southern Poverty Law Center as a militant hate group, who shouted homophobic and racial slurs at the students. So from Sandman's perspective, he was confronted by a hate group. Then a Native American elder who claimed he was the aggressor banged a drum in his face. His reaction was to smile, and he was labeled a racist for it. Man, I'd feel bad for him if that grin of his wasn't so maddening. Stop reminding me that my hopes and dreams all died in my early 20s. Salmon sued several media outlets for defamation and settled out of court with CNN, NBC, and The Washington Post. The story proves you can never assume the worst about someone based on the hat they wear. You should only assume the worst about them because they're a teenager, who are the worst people on the planet. More after the break. Welcome back. Now, it isn't just left-leaning media that screw up stories. Here's a juicy miss from the right. Number 3. The GOP isn't the biggest fan of President Biden's Green New Deal, tackling climate change. That's a bit of an understatement. That'd be like saying dogs aren't the biggest fans of fireworks. The mere sound of it can send some into a complete logic-less panic. Case in point, Fox News personality Larry Kudlow said this on his show.
There's a study coming out of the University of Michigan which says that to meet the Biden Green New Deal targets, America has to, get this, America has to stop eating meat, stop eating poultry, fish, seafood, eggs, dairy, and animal-based fats. Okay, we got that? No burgers on July 4th. No steaks on the Barbie. I'm sure Middle America is just going to love that. Can you grill those Brussels sprouts?
Several burger-loving Republican politicians expressed outrage over this. Most notably, Mayor McCheese. You're banning burgers? That's racist. This notion that Biden would ban burgers stemmed from a Daily Mail article citing a University of Michigan study they claimed showed Americans would be limited to just one burger a month. But it turns out that study has nothing to do with Biden. It was just a hypothetical study showing how carbon emissions would drop if meat consumption was cut. Fox wound up apologizing for being misleading. Wait, really? A news company apologizing for being misleading is like an otter apologizing for always looking like they just spotted a delicious brownie. It's kind of their default mode. So left-leaning media got to take a victory lap and point out how ridiculous the right was for believing Biden would ban meat. At least until some said he should ban burgers. I knew it! You're all burger bigots. Number 2. You know how some Democrats still believe Trump won the 2016 election because he colluded with Russia? That's due mainly to the Steele dossier. Now, the Steele dossier story is very complicated, and it would take a long time to fully explain so everyone understands all the moving parts of it. But that's not how news media works. The TLDR of the Steele dossier is that it was a report alleging Russia had compromising information on Trump, including possibly a P-tape, and that Trump, or at least members of the Trump campaign, were also working with Russia to interfere in the presidential elections. The Steele dossier was leaked by BuzzFeed without the permission of the author, British spy Christopher Steele. And no, I'm not going to make a joke about information on an alleged P-tape being leaked. I have more journalistic integrity than, say BuzzFeed. Several left-leaning news outlets ran with the story that Trump colluded with Russia, and many Democrats accused Trump of stealing the election, including current White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre. But, and you knew there was going to be a but, a lot of the allegations in the dossier were unverified, and most of the sources were anonymous. This is despite the FBI offering Steele up to $1 million to prove his claims. Ultimately, the allegations were largely discredited. The Mueller report investigating Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election concluded that even though Trump and his allies had connections to Russia, it did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activities. And some media outlets ended up correcting or removing parts of stories they ran on the Steele dossier. But despite this, people still believe Trump colluded with Russia to win the 2016 election. Because the one thing Democrats and Republicans have in common is, if the person they like doesn't win, then the election must have been stolen. You'd think people would be happy to learn this wasn't true. I know Matt is. He thanks his lucky stars every day that there isn't a Trump P-tape we forced him to watch as a chaser to the Hunter Biden videos. More after the break. Welcome back. Here's another story that right-leaning media got wrong. Number 1. Democratic National Committee staffer Seth Rich was shot to death in his Washington, D.C. neighborhood in July of 2016. His killing was never solved, and authorities believe his murder was a robbery gone wrong. But many believe something else entirely. To this day, several people believe that Rich was murdered on the command of Hillary Clinton for leaking DNC emails to WikiLeaks. Now, this is a conspiracy theory. Kind of like how people believe the U.S. never landed on the moon, the Earth is flat, or Jake Gyllenhaal and Jared Leto are two different people. You actually think this isn't the same person? Stop being ridiculous, you conspiracy nuts. This theory was fueled by WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, who implied Rich supplied the emails to WikiLeaks and was murdered over it.
Whistleblowers go to significant efforts to get us material and often very significant risks. As a 27-year-old works for the DNC, who was shot in the back, murdered just 2 weeks ago.
What are you suggesting? What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that our sources take risks.
This claim was pushed as fact by many on the right, including Fox News' Sean Hannity. Fox even ran a story claiming an FBI forensic report of Rich's computer, generated within 96 hours after Rich's murder, showed that he made contact with WikiLeaks. However, this turned out to be false, as the FBI didn't conduct a probe into Rich's murder. That claim came from private investigator Rod Wheeler, who was looking into Rich's case and was interviewed by Fox. Fox should have probably looked into his background before bringing him on, though, as he had a long history of making wild, unsubstantiated claims. This includes him warning that a group of armed lesbian pedophiles were roaming the country looking for kids to abduct. Democrats and Republicans believing any wild theory they hear, as long as it makes the other side look bad? Name a more iconic duo. Fox wound up retracting the story. Meanwhile, Wheeler accused Fox News and a local Fox affiliate station of misleadingly quoting him. And he later sued Fox News and accused them of fabricating his quotes. That lawsuit was later thrown out by a judge. The Mueller report was also weirdly involved in the story, showing that Seth Rich did not leak DNC emails to WikiLeaks. It determined that Russians hacked the DNC servers and leaked the emails to WikiLeaks. In fact, WikiLeaks received these emails 4 days after Rich died, which of course proves Rich's ghost gave the emails to WikiLeaks in retaliation for the DNC murdering him over something he hadn't done yet. Or Julian Assange lied to protect himself from the fact that he worked with Russians who hacked the DNC's server in a bid to interfere in the presidential election. But probably the ghost thing. Fox wound up paying 7 figures to settle a lawsuit brought by Rich's parents. I think this and all the other biased, botched stories I covered show you that you shouldn't just immediately believe any story slandering someone you don't like. Vet where you're getting your news from. Always rely on credible sources, like the Weekly World News. Now, if you'll excuse me, after spending this much time defending Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, I feel like I need a long shower. And this episode is sponsored by Surfshark. Surfshark was recently rated Editor's Choice for the best VPN for privacy and security by PC Mag, which is important because big corporations and governments are trying to track everything you do online, especially if you're searching online for things that they keep labeling conspiracy theories, like the one about Jake Gyllenhaal and Jared Leto. Wake up, sheeple! The point is, Surfshark can help protect you. Surfshark even keeps a server in the British Virgin Islands. You can use that for maximum privacy because the laws there allow Surfshark to not keep any user data logs. Plus, when you get Surfshark, you can use one account across all your devices, laptop, mobile, phone, iPads, everything, for no extra charge. So if you haven't yet, check out Surfshark. And when you sign up now using the link below, you'll get 85% off a 2-year plan plus 3 extra months for free. So go to surfshark.com/uncovered and use the code UNCOVERED to secure this deal. The link is below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.